This is Calicat, the Calicatster. I'm about to watch a special advanced screening of Star Trek Section 31. Oh boy. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. Well, actually, it isn't out until the morning. So I have to wait until the morning and then watch it. Or midnight. I'm not going to stay up till midnight. And now I'm going to watch Section 31. Ooh, yes. Before I go, though, to mention, the haters for this movie were on about it a good 22 hours before it even came out, as if they'd seen it, and they couldn't have possibly seen it until about midnight. They couldn't have seen it, so they're all going, oh, it sucks. They couldn't have seen it. It's not possible. Unless they're in another country where it aired, but no, it's Pacific time, so midnight Pacific time. They could not have reviewed a movie they haven't seen. Just so you know. Anyway. So, yeah, it's Calicat the Calicaster. We're on the, having watched Section 31 and didn't get that pre-screening in London that they were talking about a week ago. Obviously. Not from there. The Section 31 review. Yeah. First thoughts, ramblings, that kind of thing. Okay, first rundown, that kind of thing. Yeah, so it takes place in. Yeah, there's going to be spoilers. Spoilers. So the movie takes place in the year 2324, after the Stardates have been changed. So that explains that weird Stardate of 1292. That it's 1292 reset from 2323 when the Stardates were reset, making the making the Stardates adding an extra zero, which makes this about a year after a little over a year, and some days after the events of the Stardate 0. Which would have been January 2023, 2323, and if you add those up for the next 40 years, you get the 41,000s, which lead to Next Generation, 41,000s that lead to Next Generation. Stardate 410000.1 is 2364. So this story takes place 40 years before that, in 2324. So it takes place approximately 300 years in the past, in the future. It's a spin-off of Discovery, featuring Empress Georgeau, who was transported by the Guardian of Forever in that timeline, a version of the Guardian of Forever, who looked a little like Brian Story and acted like him, who transported her back to a time when the mirror universe hadn't diverged. But strangely enough, not to the Terran Empire, but this universe. So she's been running a nightclub in the universe, which is strangely appropriate, I guess, but hardly the imperial evil. The other cast of there's a third act appearance because they like the Star Wars in there. It plays more like a Star Wars movie than a Star Trek movie. It's Kurtzman though, so there's your problem. And Goldsmith. It's I mean, it doesn't have the value that the gag that would be to include some of the actors, of course, some of the actors that passed in the story, yeah. So yeah, it probably wouldn't have anybody from Discovery in it except her anyway, so it doesn't matter. Discovery didn't end with everyone dying, so it's not like that. Yeah, there's also. But it does end with half of her crew getting killed off as they go on their Section 31 mission. It plays like a video game, like a Star Trek themed video game, a Star Trek Online type themed video game. The with text scrolls and things explaining stuff, and you don't really need that. It's weird enough as it is the way it is. Now I'm not going to completely bash it because parts of it work, but does it work as a Star Trek story? We'll be on that later. So you have the Section 31 operatives that showing up on the station thing and recruiting her to go and find a weapon that she created in the Terran Empire that another Terran has stolen into this universe through a wormhole thing and wants to use it to blow up the Federation. Even though technically that version of the Terran Empire from Discovery, they already know about it, but in the time of Captain Kirk in the 60s, it was new to them. Like they transported over to the Terran Empire. That was brand new. I know the 60s one was written, decades ago, and that episode Mirror Mirror was decades ago, and it was a reflection and all that stuff. But in that's why any new version of it, they would have to just retcon it away that they knew or they didn't know or something. Clearly they know what the Terran Empire is. Like explicitly. They know where they've been, so implicitly. And only Section 31 would know where they've been. Right? Maybe they buried the story, didn't tell Kirk. We have several alien characters in the story. We have a transhuman bionic wisecracking either British or Aussie guy. I'm not sure his accent is interesting. But his clunky suit kind of doesn't work so well. Is he a Borg? What? He's not a Borg. He's a transhuman. So, Gamilt had nothing to do with this. The guy that thought of the transhuman robot guy, he was also thinking of the Borg, but it does remind me of a Gamilt type of story. It's not. It had nothing to do with him. He did not pitch this. Absolutely, he's not famous enough to have pitched this. This looks more like a Akiva Goldsman thing. With a little bit of the other guy, because they did do Mission Impossible as well, so it looks like Mission Impossible more than it does any fan that came up with this, including the Starship locations, Calcat. I wouldn't have really come up with this, although if I was kidding, I would have come up with this. I would have come up with this as a like they're in an alternate timeline where it's Elseworld alternate timeline type of deal. Quote the DC people, and they're just in this other pocket universe where nothing really matters if they live or die. The half black, half white alien, effeminate guy that shows up. I thought that race was gone in the Kirk's era, but they're encountering them again. Did they find more of them? I guess it's possible. It was only Lazarus. It was only not Lazarus. That was another guy. It was only the alien that said he was the last of his kind. Maybe he wasn't. But that's fine. Sure. They have a Deltan in it. And it's playing a Deltan powers. It's Kimchi, of course. And she's immediately killed, like, within a few minutes of the movie. She has a few lines of dialogue here and there, but then she's killed. Poor Kimchi. But no, not in Star in Vanguard. She's still alive, so it's different. It's a different lady than Kimchi. It's just one of her species. Anyway, okay. It's a different lady. She's a Deltan. Yeah, that's it. She's not. She's not the same person at all. She'd be more of a Betazoid than a Deltan. Anyway, it's not her, so don't worry about it. We have a rather annoying Vulcanoid robot being driven by a tiny creature in his head, a la Men in Black. In fact, it's so obvious that the foreshadowing, this Men in Black guy literally saying to the camera, within the first 10 minutes, I can hack into his suit. You're like, okay, he's going to do that later. Like, Kurtzman, when you write a script, don't give away the. I bet that guy's terrible at poker. Don't give away the hand here. But you did. The red herring. Oh, the thing. How did they? There's a spycraft thing going The main problem with Section 31, of course, is that they're not clandestine. They're like the Secret Service. They're like Men in Black. It's a Men in Black thing. It really is. They might as well put on the hats and the fedoras. Men in Black. Yeah. The fact that they got Michelle Yeoh, the Oscar winner, went for the kung fu spoof movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, who is really the only decent actor in the entire thing, does elevate it beyond what it would be if they had, just those quirky guys in it. And clearly the voice of the voice of the techno robot guy is clearly Critical Vitriol from Starship Locations, but as the robot. He's playing the wrong character. He should be the guy from Lower Decks, technically. It should be the Lower Decks dude. But no, they've mixed them up, and they said, no, the Lower Decks dude, it's actually the other guy who's the augment. No, that should be the Aussie guy. Otherwise, it's Critical Vitriol with a mech suit on. Yeah. It's not, though. It's wow. But so they go on a mission, and there's a super weapon that the bad guy created. Before I forget, though, let's open with this beginning of the story. Of course, there's a super weapon. Of course, there is. They got to stop the super weapon. There's your plot. Okay, let's open with the And yeah, they go through all the shenanigans to get there. That's a basic plot. Yeah, and crosses and double crosses and that kind of thing. Think the Magnificent Seven meets Men in Black meets Guardians of the Galaxy, and there you got it. That's the movie. So we open with this movie with a long, extended, whispery thing. I've been complaining about them for all of Star Trek Discovery Season 5 and previous seasons for doing this kind of stuff, especially when they're out of doors. I know it was kind of a soundstage. They weren't really outdoors. It was a soundstage. But don't whisper in a movie. We don't want to have to put on the subtitles. And the subtitles didn't work, incidentally. You can project without necessarily whispering. I shall demonstrate once again. Now the secret plan shall be revealed. We shall go over here, and I will secretly attack you and poison. Bah. You can understand what I'm saying. I'm not whispering it. They were whispering like this. They were like, "Oh, we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna poison the bad guy." Don't do that. Talk. Come on. And that just you kind of almost don't even need that opening scene, and then she becomes the emperor. And then I get it. She's like the emperor's in command or something, and there's this whole dynastic thing going on in that weird planet where the Terran Empire planet is devastated. Clearly, they had this one soundstage to work with. It was during COVID when they filmed this movie, so they had so all of it was kind of screwed up. They filmed this movie before Discovery Season 5, and you can kind of tell. And then they had to go back and reshoot parts of it as a movie instead of a TV show. They filmed it before Season 5. You can kind of tell. People's voices are raspy, and that's probably why, because they're COVID. But then do the scene over, or ADR it or something. You kind of don't need the beginning of this movie. You really don't. If you just had, okay, yeah, she comes back, and there's this foreshadowing that her friend is gonna be her slave, I guess, and he's she brands him with a sword, and then he becomes a slave, and later on he allegedly dies. It's okay, we know he didn't. We know that earlier on in the story that there's this other mirror universe alien who gets a hold of the device, the weapon. They finds the weapon again, and so we know right away that he's the bad guy. like immediately, oh, that's the guy under the mask. It's the dude with the scar on his face. Not the other dude, but there's a red herring in there. There's the Silly Kelly type of red herring guy. Like, ha 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 ha. Well, although he looks a little bit more like a Mark's Cards red herring guy, or maybe Messy from the Starship Locations, but he's yeah, I'd say he's more that. Yeah, he's more Messy. Jamie Messy from the story. He's not. The alien with the thing stuck all over his face. He would totally do it. So he also was an augment. There's a lot of, they love the augment thing. They love the Section 31 thing. They like the idea of these spycraft in the story being blatant. Kind of on this top secret mission, but totally be dressed like we're spies on this evil nightclub that warps space. It's shaped like one of those brooch from a yeah. But yeah, and then there's this opening like dialogue for a good 5 minutes where the family members that clearly are going to get executed right there by the bad guy, and then the other empress, then the other Terran emperor lady who looks kind of like the girl from Enterprise. It's not. She shows up. She says, "Georgiou's now the emperor." It's like, when did that happen? How did they decide that? So it kind of ties into Enterprise if it is supposed to be Hoshi, Empress Hoshi. That'd be kind of cool. But I don't think they did that. I think Hoshi, and Yo are different parts of Asia. They wouldn't. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Yeah. So if that's what they're going for, it kind of works visually, but story-wise, it's kind of wonky. And yeah, the Stardate being let low is also confusing to the ones that, does this take place during the 2250s? Because that's when the old Stardate said 12 something. No, it's not the 2250s. It's the new Stardate calendar. It's switched over to 1,000 every year. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. 1,000 every year instead of 10 every year. They just changed it. It's next gen timeline. Well, sort of its own timeline. We've got another character called Rachel Garrett is in this as a young person. So it's got to be the 2320s. That's got to be what it is. And from the Enterprise C as a young person, as a chaos gremlin, they call her. I didn't know that she was that, but I guess that's what they just... And they got her in a fright wig, and they put her in regular hair later in the fright wig again. And so, it's just a name. It's a name drop, and I don't think it works necessarily. She's the most anchored character in the story in terms of the Starfleet people, but as Rachel Garrett, it might as well have been someone else. That she gives no vibes that she's the future captain of the Enterprise C. She's just there. So that doesn't work. Some of them don't work. The Men in Black alien. I keep saying Men in Black alien because that Vulcan guy with the creature inside him is literally the bad guy in Men in. And I know it was a little gray man, but in Men in Black, and it was inside his face. But it's the same idea. You guys watched Men in Black and thought, wouldn't it be cool if we have like a robot bodysuit guy and a little mini guy riding around inside him, like a mech? You kind of ripped off Men in Black there. You really did. And the other guy could be, it could be a Men in Black movie with Michelle Yeoh and the one guy, and the augment guy, the augment agent guy. There's an augment and there's a transhuman and there's a robot being driven by a little man, little action figure man. Because they had to pay a little bit of homage to not only Men in Black, but Starship Locations. They have little men. Although in Starship Locations, we're using action figures because it's cheaper. And we can't actually have actors and stuff and doing Star Trek stories and big giant sets. It's way cheaper to build like an action figure on the ground. It's easier to do that. Do the voice work and all the voice work. Yeah, so... So that's why that's done that way. We could do a live-action Star Trek story, but I don't think anybody would watch it. And it would be strange. It would be like, oh, the Star Trek guy, he's on the Earth walking around. go to some random building that looks futuristic and stand out there in a Star Trek uniform. And I could do that, but do that at conventions anyway. So that's when you'll see me live, you know, in fan anime and stuff like that. But yeah. So there's it's several movies mashed together, several ideas mashed together. They go on this covert mission. The bad guy. They do this thing they think is clever with the mirror universe Zappy, putting her out of phase in order to capture the device. They put the out of phase device on the device, the weapon. They don't just blow the weapon up with a phaser, because that would just end the story right there. They just shoot it. They're out in the middle of nowhere. No one would notice. They didn't think of that. And from the Jamie Messi stuck on face guy. They torture the face guy after the bad guy escapes. The Delton is killed. They go on a mission, and they go to this desert planet that clearly that's the set they had during COVID. That's the set they had to use, which is fine. We've done that on our stuff. It's fine. You use what you have at the time. It's the presentation of the characters flirting with each other, trying to be like they have chemistry is actually funny and probably not intentional, because they're trying to be clever and edgy and at the same time like romantic or something, but it's a suggestion like, ooh, she's a evil lady, she's sneaky and sultry. It's like, no. If they ever did an Expendables movie with women, Michelle Yeoh would be one of the main ones in it. There's Sigourney Weaver and all that, and her, and whoever, and Cynthia Rothrock and a bunch of other people, because she was in earlier kung fu movies. Like she comes from the Jackie Chan era. She's from that one of the younger people in Jackie Chan. So those type of movies, kung fu movies. She's from that era, which is funny. So you have, but the romance doesn't work. Not even the romance between her and the bad guy, who you know is the bad guy immediately. It's not a surprise. It's like, okay, if he's out of phase with her, he grabs the machine. He's from her universe. He knew how to do it. No, he's the bad guy. And the turncoat mole guy turning out to be the Men in Black guys, well, if you've watched Men in Black, you immediately know he's the bad guy, because he was in Men in Black. The other guy was, they're ripping off. They're ripping off Men in Black. They might as well have Will Smith show up and go like, oh, pimp slap, to one of the other guys. But yeah. And then they go on a mission, they have to go and find the garbage gal. So we do have reference to the garbage gal, another Memberberry. So we got Memberberry Garrett, and we got Memberberry Garbage Gal. I do hope Steve Shives reviews this movie with his friend. He needs to bring his friend back and review the movie, because his friend will probably like it, and he won't. A lot of people are reviewing it already, even though they haven't seen it. And the ones that have, well, they haven't seen it. I consider this the a Star Trek movie after Star Trek 2016, the Star Trek Beyond. This is the next Star Trek movie. It just went online instead of, it's the next Star Trek movie. It's here. Okay. You have it, Star Trek. You have a year to come out with something cool for your 60th anniversary. Get to it. But I suggest not doing Khan. Don't do Khan again. You kind of did a little here, a little bit. Don't do that again. Swashbuckling Adventure, you did do that here. Yeah. Don't do that. Theory. Use the shields from the garbage scow to fend off the bad guys. Have goofy stuff going on. The chaos gremlin. Garrett, which is strange. She goes down into the hold to push the garbage out of the cargo bay, but with explosives on it. Just so happens that there is a toy that is talking like a Teddy Ruxpin. It looks more like a gremlin though, like a gremlin Teddy Ruxpin. Looks like a gremlin crossed with the character from Mac and Me, and she uses the explosive batteries to blow up the junk, which damages the enemy ship basically. Okay, that's different, but silly. It is funny that it says "It's Gotta Love Me," which is is the tagline of I believe from Dinosaurs. It's kind of funny. It's not from Barney. It's from it's the little alien dinosaur boy kid from Dinosaurs. Anyway, but yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. And it blows up, which is funny. So it's clearly they saw Starship locations. They're aware that we did stuff like that. They're aware that they probably did not see the Teddy Ruxpin episode at that point because the movie was already done. But had they would have been like, oh yeah, your story with the Teddy Ruxpin is similar to ours. It's the other way around, guys. I was thinking of that stuff in the 80s. The very first Silly Trek adventure in 1986, Captain Kirk fights a giant Teddy Ruxpin. And it says, "Gotta love me." It does the whole dinosaur thing. Teddy Ruxpin thing. It talks. So, no, in 86. And then the Next Generation, when that happened, they did it again. In 87. And had the Next Generation people in it. Picard fights the Teddy Ruxpin. So, they've been doing that since the 80s. So, yeah, you guys don't own the own the moratorium on that. We've done it already. And then we did a little update of it. And had the giant Teddy Ruxpin-shaped spaceship. Which doesn't talk in the story, incidentally. It's the bad guy controlling it. Roger Math. Yeah, so in this one, yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there appear to be little cameos by the cast of Starship Locations in this. So I can't hate it, because, because cameos in the nightclub scene. It's just like, that guy's, oh, come on. But yes, I was not there, but strangely enough, my presence was felt on the set. Several of my character ideas are in there. They didn't read the Gamil pitch though. They just thought it would be cool to have a mech suit guy, probably because they watched Elysium, and they watched the Borg episodes. And they're like, let's have that. So a guy that is a mech suit that's wisecracking. Because there was a guy like that in there. There was a British guy in there. It's probably they're thinking of Elysium. So it's a combination of other things. The dissimulated Borg things. We have one in Canary Space as well. Dissimulated Borg. So we have that too. He doesn't wisecrack as much though. No. So we did it too. Will did it. We did it. A lot of people did it. The Borg is a cool idea. A transhuman is a cool idea. Transhuman. Having the Vulcanoid space creature in the head's wife show up as a dude is something we would have done. And I would go, where is he? Where's my husband? He owes me money or something. That was kind of funny. That's right out of the Starship Locations, especially out of the later ones with the Picard one, which they couldn't have seen yet. When they did this movie, because it came out last year. My guess is they just guessed. And my guess is they just were on the same wavelength, and they're like, you know what would be funny is if we did this. Let's have some morally ambiguous, questionable characters doing chaos gremlin type of things. Let's have a sexually ambiguous character, or 2 or 3. Why not? Have 3 of them in there. Let's have gender bending character. Sure, why not? In a nightclub, you'd have that. Absolutely. So they have these different archetypes. It a little polish, and this would have been really good. Maybe not as a Star Trek, but would have been really good. They really did not need the talky, whispery thing in the beginning. Because once they could have. Well, what was that about? I mean, she's evil, she poisons the people, and then later on she has a flashback in a dream where she poisons the underling guy, does a thing. I think it's also funny that it's like they didn't need all of that. That was like Princess Bride. I felt it. There's literally a line from Princess Bride in this. Well, the guy goes like, "Oh, you have immunity to the poison by taking more of it in small doses." It's like, that's from Princess Bride. You guys, come on, come on. That's not one of mine. That's Princess Bride. I didn't write that. But I was like, oh my gosh, really? Let's homage everything. I know. Yeah, and they probably also, I think Mission Impossible did that a few times. The remakes with the guy. It's clearly Abrams is involved. They have a sort of a speeder cargo sled chase thing because you have to have those in a movie too. So it's a sled chase for that one too as well. So what are you guys doing? Oh, another sled chase. Okay. Yeah, on the green screen. They're going to look like it's going fast. They're going to fight them. Lots of kung fu effects, but you could tell that our main characters were not doing their own stunts. They had very, very convincing looking stunt doubles, just off to the back, going. Yeah, basically the main bad guy fights a girl in the dramatic fight scene. Well, she can kick his ass, but still, she's fighting a girl. That's mean. Even if she's a bad guy girl, she's evil Empress. Yeah, and except for cacking a few bad guys, she's really not terribly evil in the story. Yeah. They made her character more interesting as the turncoat bad guy than she was as captain of the Shinzao back in the day, on the first season Discovery, which they have a habit in these movies of like blowing up the cool ship really quick so they can go on to the next thing and then blow up the other ship, or killing the bad guy to go up quick to the next thing, which you do in some of our stuff too, but we do it for a purpose. I think they just did it because they wanted to. And it's cool that some of the model ships I was building kind of emulate them, but not on purpose. It was a coincidence. Yeah, the cargo hauler. There's a cargo hauler in one of my stories coming up. It doesn't look anything like that though. It's a little bit like it, but yeah, I completely thought of it separately. So they might think later on at the conventions, no, you ripped off Section 31 when you made the model. That's impossible. I just built the model. I hadn't seen the movie yet. It's completely, unless it's in the trailer. I wasn't paying attention to the ships in the trailer. Maybe it was. The garbage cow. It's a reference to Star Trek 3 and 4. Yeah, so we have there's a lot of references to other things, speeder chase, through the tunnels chase, that kind of thing. Very video gamey kind of things. It's make a fun video game, not so much a series. Glad they didn't make it a series. And actually, this should be the direction they go with that Starfleet Academy idea, where Robert Picardo is going to have a cameo. They should just do that as a standalone movie and not do a series. There's nothing interesting about Starfleet Academy unless you make it Lower Decks almost immediately afterward, and they go on a ship and they do Lower Decks. Because Academy brats going to Navy school is not interesting as a story. No, that's not interesting. Don't do that. That's not. Yeah. Oh, they're studying astrophysics. Going to space. We're going to class. Yeah. That's why sitcoms about college were not as successful as sitcoms about high school. For the same reason. Sitcoms about high school are more popular because you could put them in a high school. The reality TV stuff about guys living in a house in a dorm and going through college, that's a little better just because they could be doing different things and working at different things. You could have sitcoms about that kind of thing. But yeah. And they seem to be obsessed with the idea of a nightclub and putting in a club somewhere. It's kind of what they want to do with the Starbase 80 as well. Which is yeah. As the next generation in DS9 and Voyager and Enterprise guy, hire us before you screw it all up. Hire us before the 60th anniversary. Mark's cards, and I will come back. We will do a Star Trek. We will you can give us the rights to do Star Trek Legacy. We'll do that. We'll direct it. We'll direct it. We'll be showrunners. Unlike Gamilt, who never was a showrunner. We will come in and we'll do the showrunner. And we'll write the story and we'll come up with that. And yeah, just replace. We'll make it a cool Star Trek adventure for the anniversary. Yeah, it'll be fun. Yeah. And you could do a live action Lower Decks movie where they're on an exciting planet. Hey, that would be cool. Get the actors and put them in makeup and put them in the movie. Yeah, there's your movie. It writes itself. On a goofy planet, have them act. Dennis Quaid and all those and Tawny Newsom and them acting insane. That'd be great. And the whole cast, you know. The Lower Decks live action movie would probably get fans to watch it. Star Trek again. Or it's fun. You know, out of their element. It's fun. That's what Star Trek 4 was about. Out of their element. It's fun there in Frisco. I was not on the set during the making of that. I knew people that were. And also that George Takei was on the set. Well, obviously he was in it. And he was talking about it in conventions and stuff and TV shows and an interview on our local channel when it was being filmed. They interviewed George Takei when he was doing Star Trek 4. He said, well, they asked him if anything funny happened that day. And he said, well, something funny did happen, actually. I walked by this coffee shop, and this lady lifted up her shirt and showed me the real Twin Peaks of San Francisco. I wasn't interested. That's all he said about that. I wasn't interested. It turns out George Takei doesn't like girls. He likes dudes. Sure, why not? It's the future. Anyway, oh my. That's if only a dude that flashed him. You were like, well, come on over here. Oh my. Anyway, so this movie has that kind of energy too at the end of it. The weird flirty scene with it. Oh yeah, there's a changeling. There's a commodoid changeling in it too. It changes into things. He turns into. There was a cool sequence when he turned into that big spider octopus thing to catch the lady that flew off the sled. That was kind of cool. There are cool moments in this movie. It just needed to be polished. It needed a Cal-Cat rewrite. It would make a good pilot at all. It's not a good series pilot. Yeah. And with the Academy, they should not do that. Just do one standalone. Because I don't think, Mary Wiseman would be the lead, and I don't know if she can carry a whole show with that shtick, that Carrie shtick, imitating somebody from Starship Location. It's Carrie, a real person. She's imitating a real person. You know, so it's like, well, I don't, it's a location missions character, and it's like, well, no, you're not doing, no, you'd have to get permission from that person that is in the journal and be like, oh, no, I don't want you to do that. Dang it. And a bunch of from Valley Stories before missions. It's not, but if you read those stories, you totally say, wow, it kind of is like that, though. It's not, but it's kind of like that. She's also similar to the Sandra Talisman character as well in the story, and the two of the Abbeys as well. So a lot of people it's similar to from Starship Locations and On Location, even though they wouldn't know about that at all unless they read the stories. They can. Nothing bad about the stories. They have quirky characters in it, bubbly, quirky characters. Books of me as well. Some books of me, some not. And yeah, they're clearly there. And if you read it, you'd be all like, yeah, I'll just take this character and make a story with Star Trek. There's also a Discovery. They also had a Cal and a Cole and a Sue-Cal, but there were two characters in Discovery that were in wheelchairs, and one of them died. Mitchell died, so they named a ship after. He died of MS, Lou Gehrig's disease. That guy, yeah, just thought to mention that he died in February of last year. But he was, yeah, he was mentioned in there. There were fans complaining about that character. It's kind of messed up. He's dead. It's messed up. Well, the other guy's still alive, though. There were two of them. I think one of them is related to Mary Wiseman. But yeah, but this, yeah, I mean, they're doing a Lost Era story, and of course they have to acknowledge the guy that wanted to do the Lost Era stories to begin with in Discovery. They have to acknowledge Fuller, because this is clearly a Fuller type of story too. This is clearly like he wanted to do an anthology instead of Discovery. He wanted to have like, okay, well, each season we're going to do a different era, and we're going to go into the Lost Era. This is from the Lost Era. We actually went to the Lost Era in a sense with the Tribble Planet episode, where we visited a ship from the Lost Era which got taken into the 78 years into the future, and found the Tribbles on the planet. Did that one. And that one was an interesting episode because it was the premiere of Starship Locations. It was a couple of years ago. It was during when this was being written. During this was being filmed, they knew about it, yeah, that one was actually based on a screenplay by David Gerrold, the guy that thought of the Trouble with Tribbles, and we actually had permission to make a fan film based on that story, and picked up a copy of the script, signed it. Yeah, go and do your fan film. Fine, cool. And yeah, years later we saw him again at a convention. And said, yeah, he saw it. Saw at that point a little bit of it. Said, yeah, that's actually quite different. I like the part where what you did with the giant Tribble Queen. That was funny. Yeah, that's great. But he said don't do Blood and Fire because that's too hard, and we already did that. So I wasn't going to tackle Blood and Fire. That's okay. I'll buy a copy of the movie, but I did. And the script, but I did not. No, we're not going to adapt that. That's already been done. Already did. Star Trek New Voyages already did it, or Star Trek Phase 2 did it. We could tackle some of the Lost Era stuff in Legacy, but it would be vicariously through, this thing that happened 80 years ago is now happening now. That kind of thing, because we're still going ahead. We're always going ahead. So we're still doing Legacy. So the Legacy, Star Trek Legacy, that's what they should do. They should do what the fans want for that particular thing. Legacy is a cool title. Do that. Make the ship the Legacy like we did. That's fine. In fact, the Trek Guards can make a 3D model of our model if they want to. I have the model if they want to scan it. But yeah, so rambling about the other thing, because yeah, I just skirt around whether this was Section 31 movie was either good or bad or whatnot, and sure, I'm rambling on, but that's fine. It's a Star Trek thing. It's not an update thing on Star Trek in general. It's the latest Star Trek movie. 2016 was a Star Trek movie, and this was a Star Trek movie. This is in 2024, 8 years later. Taking you guys a long time to do another movie. And it's weird because there's plenty of fans that are famous that totally could write a good story, that are good script writers. You guys could go to them. You don't have to consult Starship Locations, which is just a fan guy on the internet. You can go ask Larry Mimichek and stuff, and some other people. Go back to Fuller. He's done with American Gods. Go ask him. Go ask if Nicholas Meyer has any ideas. I think he's still around. Yeah. Although Star Trek 6 doesn't really hold up in a lot of ways. That was the latest one because back in the day, because the Shakespeare quoting was a little silly. After a while, it's like, okay, why are they all quoting Shakespeare? Come on. I suppose most people watching the movie would be all, what are they quoting from, and wouldn't know. But as a Shakespeare auteur, I know what they're getting it from. But yeah, it's like cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war. Yeah, yeah. Section 31. That doesn't make sense. That the Empress. There's some things that don't make sense. There's just, why did the Traveler guy send her back there and all that? I'm thinking maybe he wasn't necessarily a Guardian of Forever, he was a Q, and then that makes more sense, but it still kind of doesn't. Although the real Q hadn't been seen in here. Because they didn't want to deal with it. Yeah. Yeah, so there, yeah, and like the tension, the sexual tension doesn't work. Because, yeah, there's just this May December weird shit going on. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And she's evil, so it really doesn't work. It is funny that they made fun of it at the end, though. It's like nobody's gonna want to bang the crazy lady. No, you don't do that. But yeah, the character, that is. Yeah. There's, if they did, they could do other stuff, but yeah, 23, 24, but yeah. So what am I gonna rate this? I mean, on a scale of like a Star Trek Discovery movie spin-off rating. I guess in terms of you have to weigh in that it is a spin-off of a niche show that a lot of the fandom didn't like at all. Even though we went into the future and they improved it on our suggestion, it totally was our suggestion. Anyway, go into the future, that's where they should go. But yeah, I mean, it totally was. Seems awfully weirdly coincidental. They have a cow in there. Even though it's not my real name. But yeah, it's a stage name. The Starfleet Academy, Section 31 name. Ooh, no, section. So yeah, there's they just, yeah, the parts of it. It wasn't boring. Once they got past the silly whispery part in the beginning, where they might as well have not even had it, because the two child actors and the father and the mother are just whispering like really, really quietly. They were speaking in English. They were just whispering so quietly it was a mumble, and they were like, it's like, ADR this or take it out. Doesn't need to be in there, especially if they're all like dead in like 2 minutes. Anyway, it's like, take this out. Doesn't need to be in here. They had that problem with Discovery in the first, all series. They had that problem. They just thought, oh, whispering quietly in the background is so dramatic. Not if you can't hear it, it isn't. Yes, you're not a procedural cop show where you can get away with that on those. Also, you can get away with that on those. You know why? Because there's a lot of echo in the soundstage. That's how you can get away with that. They're like, oh, yes, have you found out what the case is? Yes, Notice that when I say this, I'm not whispering it, but I'm also talking softly, and you can still understand me. That's how to do it. Yes, I'm still projecting my voice, even though, but they're like going like this. No, don't do that. And then later on they don't. So clearly they ADR'd all the action with the main characters to get all, especially the corny jokes. They kind of fall flat. But what you needed to, yeah, for a spin-off show on Discovery, it's perfectly salvageable as a spin-off movie of Discovery. It's sort of a finale kind of thing. Sure. In that respect, 3 stars for it being a spin-off of Discovery. It wouldn't be a great theatrical movie. It would probably still be about 2.5, 3 stars. It would be better than average, fun, okay, fine, perfectly salvageable. Not the blockbuster you want, let's say. So this would not make money. This would tank. It reminds me of it reminds me of a lot of things, but it reminds me of an old Western version of Men in Black kind of like idea, like a little bit of Wild Wild West thrown in there, which they also helped on. A little bit of it's the Magnificent Seven, Wild Wild West meets Men in Black, and then they go to a Wild West deserted planet, and they hitch their wagon to this other vehicle, and they use it with TNT in the back to blow up the bad guy. blow up a bad guy ship. Well, his ship, and they beam out. That's a beam out thing. That was weird too. Yeah, our heroes all escaped somehow, but they beam out. And the super weapon like destroys. Yeah, what is the nature of the super weapon? Is it allegedly? It just kind of blows up the wormhole. It's like, well, are they still in another? It's almost as if this story is playing with the idea of, in the same way that those TMS episodes of Starship Locations played. If you don't know what those are, they are our fan film series in which we did an alternate. They would go to an alternate universe on occasion, kind of like the Mirror Universe, but slightly different. Where the martial sportiest people, the TMS cult, the COL, were in charge, and it was a slightly different version of Star Trek where their timeline diverged, and you didn't have to read the books to know what was going on because they explained it in like 5 minutes without whispering. That this is an alternate planet where the spaceship sent us to this other universe. We're in an alternate universe. They explained that, and that's all you need. Okay. This should be an alternate universe. If this was an Elseworld story, great. Fine, it's an Elseworld story. It's not great. The story's not great, but it's passable. It's fine. It would tank in the movie theaters, but it is the latest Star Trek movie, so there you go. They could do more of these TV movies with other characters in the Elseworld and all that. But yeah, it was sort of that idea, the whole idea that like, okay, these characters aren't behaving like Star Trek people, so if it's an alternate universe to ours, if it establishes that, okay, all of Discovery and this movie, it's not Star Trek, it's like some other thing with a Star Trek name on it, then fine. It's in one of the multiverse universes, and it's just where she ends up. So I'm not against the canon of the story. The execution of the story need a little work. The canon of the story is fine. It does have the problem of situational awareness and that type of thing, which is funny coming from an autistic guy who's situational awareness. But even I noticed, so oh my god, it must be bad. The socially awkward spy group would instantly reveal their spies within 10 seconds, and they would be the crappiest spies in the galaxy. Yeah, the whole Guardians of the Galaxy in the Old West kind of thing going on here. These guys would be terrible, terrible spies. They're like, oh, that's got to be the bad guy over there, because he's the little dude from Men in Black, or that's the other bad guy over there, because he cacks himself at one point, like Pine Hill student. Oh, the robot, yeah. But that was a setup, the robot. Because the little dude projects literally there he should have been whispering. There he should have been doing that. He should have been like, oh, wait a minute, I don't know how his mech suit got hacked into. Instead of, I could totally hack your mech suit, and I'm totally not going to do that later on. Like, you're totally going to do that, aren't you? No. That doesn't work, does it? Just think about it. That's how you block your script and story and go like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You're right. That doesn't make sense. Have him, instead of the other guy espousing that information, show don't tell, that kind of thing. Yeah, you're telling him. You're telling the audience literally what's going to happen next. In that case, you want, in that kind of show don't tell, have him say his suit is glitching and he doesn't know why, and have the other guy just hint, oh, I don't know what that is. Then that tells the audience, doesn't blatantly tell the audience, maybe he knows something. Instead of, he's the guy that did it. Yeah, don't let Kiefer Goldsmith write a horror movie. It'll be terrible. If he already has, okay. Or a mystery movie, because there's nothing mysterious about any of these characters. The cameloid shapeshifter guy being over the top also doesn't make sense. That it's kind of revealing that he's a shapeshifter. It's like, okay. There's except for the the main hero guy that's with and Garrett, the two grounded characters, Augment and Garrett. Garrett, the Chaos Gremlin. We have Georgiou, the three main characters that are the central to this story. The Kirk, Spock, and McCoy of the story, basically. But yeah, you got that in there. Okay, you got that in there. But yeah, at least you understand that needs to be in there. And then they come to the end, and finally we come to the end of our delicious review rant. It's all going up the channel today. Nana Visitor's guest starring appearance in this. What? What? Pause, rewind. What? Who is? Okay, Deep Space Nine came out in the timeline in the 1990s, right? 1993, premiered in 93. 1993, it was a spinoff of Next Generation. And Nana Visitor's character, Kira Nerys, is supposed to be... that's where Section 31 was introduced on Deep Space Nine. That's where it was from, Deep Space Nine. And there it was secret and clandestine, and they were actually like playing it up. Like, Garrick was obviously a spy for them. Because, operating his own agenda, and he was in love with Bashir, but never acquainted. Unless you count the other timeline where they did, where his hologram were acquainted. Lower Decks, that was awesome. Guys, that was great. Lower Decks. Lower Decks is the Star Trek from these guys. The Lower Decks really is the thing that hits home that says that's Star. And Strange New Worlds is actually a pretty good, decent spin-off. Now, if Academy took place during Strange New Worlds era, that might work better. But no, it should be the 2400s, not the 32nd century. That's when it should be. It should be during the time of... it should be... If you're going to do Academy, it should be... Yeah, the Picard's son and LaForge's daughters and the adventures of the Enterprise G going on in adventures. Legacy. Should be Legacy. That's what it should be. Do that. We had briefly the daughter character, but then thought that was, no, it's like they're in blackface. Let's not do that again. Because it didn't work. It really didn't. So, back to the Kira thing. Okay, Nana Visitor... they weren't really. Nana Visitor is not playing Kira in this movie, because she can't be. This is 2324. Kira wouldn't have been born yet. Kira is only like 30-something in Deep Space Nine. She would have just, not been born until the 2030s. 2330s. So, 2430s. That's 2430s. 2324. Yeah, see, it's like 178 years later. Deep Space Nine. 2324. Granddaughter. Yeah, this thing says in 2324. So it'd be 2364. 2369 is Deep Space Nine starts. And that would only be 45 years later. It wouldn't be Kira, and it wouldn't be Kira's mom, I guess. Why does she have that funny thing on the side of her head? I'm guessing she was playing some other character. It was just like a nod to say, hi, like it's not a visitor, see? That's probably all it was. And also some Discovery 5th season background. If you want it, I got two for you. Originally, they wanted Shatner, Bill Shatner, so this year after that convention. They wanted Bill Shatner to be somehow involved in that mirror universe starship they found. They wanted Bill Shatner in there somewhere. They couldn't fit him in as the other guy. He was supposed to be the other guy. Yeah, they couldn't do it. It didn't work. The other thing they did, which would have been cool if she survived, it would have been cool. The progenitor lady in the progenitor array thing in Discovery was going to be Nichelle Nichols. It was going to be she wasn't going to be Uhura. She was going to play the progenitor lady. She died during the production, so they're like, oh, she can't play the progenitor. That would have been cool, because then it would have tie into the communications and all that. We in Starship Locations learned this amazing tidbit said, well, well, before when she was alive, we cast her in that Tribble story we mentioned as the protagonist's advisor on the ship, as the old lady who shows up and helps Captain Nog and the crew of the Chimera A under Esri Locarno, of which Esri Dax thinks is great, by the way, and it helps her out. And there's a scene in which Captain Nog is talking to old Admiral Uhura, about the nature of race relations and stuff, and Starfleet, and the nature of communications, and it's a touching scene. It's wonderful, and later on, so they were going to do something like that. You see, they were going to do something like that on Discovery, but she died. So, but yes, because Nog in the Star Trek in Discovery referenced Nog as the Starship Nog, so in the Starship Locations series, I had to go back and say, well, Aaron Eisenberg died. So I met him years ago. Kind of long discussion. Well, it was a couple, 10 minutes, 15 minutes talking about Deep Space Nine back in the day. He was a great guy. He was really great. And Nichelle Nichols was great too. The Grand Lady of Space opera. So yes. So there were a couple of discussions with Nichelle Nichols and the cast back in the day at the convention. She would show up on the convention floor and just ramble on about stuff back in the day. But yeah, there was this scene, and there were all. Yeah, so Nog gets included as the heroic captain and then fleet captain in Starship Locations, building up his Starfleet career, so that in the 32nd century they got a ship named after him because all the stuff that he did in the 2400s. So we fixed the continuity. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Spa. Yeah, so we did a convention thing too. Did a memory wall thing too. Did a convention legacy episode with William Kirks, and then the other guys over there, OTOY, did one too, with Spock getting rescued from the timeline, which they borrowed from the Chimera story, Old Friends, New Friends, from our Chimera script. It's one of our scripts, which is awesome. But in that script, that one was different in that the travelers kind of show up. And because in that one it was a little more complicated, the travelers showed up, and they said, "Oh, Spock needs to come back to the future, so we have to go get him." So they send them back there. They send Tabby back there because she's a Romulan. She passes Vulcan. She goes back to Spock's deathbed, and she takes him to the future to meet Kirk, not the alien from Discovery, but Tabby. Which makes a little more sense. She could get into the Vulcan Medical Academy. She's his doctor. She goes in there. And they leave a fake body behind, and they take him to the future to die in 2391, the other timeline. But their version is cool too, but a little more member berries there. They didn't exactly take the script, but they kind of did. As for the convention thing with the Kirks meeting each other and falling in love, that's more Lower Decks territory. Because Kirk would only love himself. I mean, really. Bill Shatner could only love himself. Bones. I mean, like Kirk circa the Wrath of Khan or so. T.J. Hooker days. That kind of Kirk. Whereas the later one was a little less clipped in his accent, you see. He was just trying to enunciate every other word. You see, harkening back to that other scene, he was just trying not to whisper. Because in Star Trek 3, he said, "Revit and not mint." He slurred it, and he said, "Ever since then, I want to slur my voice in these Star Trek movies. Fans were making fun of it." Yes. Yeah, Nichelle Nichols was going to be the progenitor. That would have been so cool. They should have done that. Yeah, well, we did it in our versions out there. And then Wilson becomes the progenitor. That's fun. Yes. So what I did is the Uhura action figure, who was Wilson Uhura, who marries Alexander Rishenko. They're like she's the grand niece of Uhura in the story. She's of his age. They're in their late 40s, early 50s at this point, and they're like, okay, they're gonna get married and stuff, and she becomes the progenitor. Wilson Uhura ends up going into the progenitorship and becoming a progenitor. So, and then they hung up. All right, so back to what I was saying about the progenitor lady. So Alexander Rishenko, a live blog, marries the grandniece of Uhura. And of course, that means in Star Trek, if people get married, somebody's got to die or disappear. Well, the progenitor episode where they go and they encounter Saru and because they made action figures of Saru and Michael Burnham action figures dressed in the season 2 outfits. And so I put them in there, and I said, like, oh, they were pulled out by the progenitors into the real world because all of Discovery actually ended in their timeline with the destruction of the progenitor ship, and then it rescued itself by sending it back to 2407. So it basically rescued itself and took those two with it. All the crew's gone. Discovery crew's gone. The whole crew. And the ship and everything. The brain in that universe took over. And yeah, the timeline's gone. And then the loom came by and ate it. Progeny. From Progeny. Oh, this is Prodigy. Although Prodigy would be a cool name for something. Progeny would be a cool name for something. Anyway, so yeah, they show up on the not Locarno ship. They show up on the Legacy. They show up on the Legacy and the Concept. They show up on Mariner's ship. Beckett Mariner's ship. Beckett Mariner Boimler's ship. She's now in their 50s, living in the future, and she's on the Boimler ship. And they have to stop the bad guy from Charlie X, who shows up. Charlie X shows up. Of course he does. They have to stop that teddy bear ship guy who's down there on the ship. He's controlling a ship that's shaped like a giant Teddy Ruxpin. It's a Teddy Ruxpin toy. And he's got to stop it. And they got to get through to that. And then they get transported to another universe where they meet the Picard LaForge alternate universe. And actually, now that I think about it, Section 31 probably takes place in the Picard LaForge universe. It would totally make sense there. So, there you go. 3 stars. Fine. It's perfectly salvageable as a Star Trek Discovery movie. Not as necessarily as a Star Trek movie, but a Star Trek Discovery movie. It's not bad. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I'm not going to give it a bad rating. It works. The trailers didn't really do it justice. I would have marketed it as I would have said, okay, this is an Elseworld saga. It's a story in its own universe. Don't worry about it, kind of deal. I would have actually had a line in there like that. And now, this Star Trek adventure taking place in the Star Trek Discovery universe, thus indicating that this timeline isn't actually happening. So you don't need to worry about it. That'd be very silly. Yeah. But, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's alright.